All right, welcome to the Bitcoin Co-op design call number 74, January 17. Exciting. Thanks all for being here. Harold cannot make it, but we have a nice group here. As usual, we can use our notes document, which I will share in the chat to take notes. Here we go. You have edit rights. You can edit anything you'd like in there. Make myself a little bit smaller here. And there's some topics already on there. One is a web prototype that I was working on, following up a discussion from last week. Then there's some conversation happening in the assumeUTXO PR, and then just earlier there was some conversation in the bitcoin.conf issue. But what else is there to chat about? What else should we put on this list?
I'm happy to share a little bit about the research report since I started putting it together.
Okay.
I have nothing really to report yet, but I started looking at the Create Wallet flows a bit yesterday, but it's nothing really to do yet, because we said we want to, like, until I think the middle of the year, we want to have the designs done for most of the things.
Yeah, so design status overall might be something, because that's something I looked into last week as well, and it's something that came up. But other than that, we have Pablo and G here. I think that's first time both of you are joining. Should we do kind of a round robin, or we don't have to, like doing those things, those introductions, but we can? What do you think?
Yeah, should I introduce myself?
Be great.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm Pablo. I have been working in Bitcoin Core now for full-time for 1 year, and started with the Qt project, the GUI, the old one, the current one, the desktop application, and yeah, I reviewed some PRs there. I made some changes, and then last year I started with the QML. But yeah, I don't know how it's organized. I have been trying to follow the documentation, the meetings offline. It was a bit difficult, so that's why I was checking with Gerald, and he told me to join the call, and maybe, yeah. So I don't know if you guys use the Qt1, the GUI project to compare. Like, I don't know. I think Michael said something that about the Create Wallet process, right? Maybe, I don't know. I know that the other one project doesn't have any management or anything, right? It's like mostly someone changes something, and the people they review, and that's it. For example, for the creation of the wallet, I think Fulsi changed something, and last year, and added some messages there that I don't know. You are like one step forward to create the wallet or something, and I was not very like. I didn't agree with that, but it's okay. Like, but there is not a consensus or something more organized as you guys doing for the QML. So
yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. This project kicked off by Harold and Hibasto, really, and very early on they pulled in Bosch, another designer, and myself, and we could just that was the small group that kind of kicked it off. And one of the desires from the beginning was to have a very good design, very thorough design process where it's kind of design first. So the design is not something that just kind of like, that's like some people sometimes touch whenever they feel like it. And you just kind of have to, for every decision, you kind of have to refigure out how you actually go about these things. That's why we built these design docs that you can see here in the background. And so we try to have like very, very thorough design files and design process. And really, before something gets coded, really start with design, because design is it's designing. Good design is good planning, right? And especially if design is way ahead of development, then everyone has a chance to take a look at it and discuss it before anyone ever needs to touch any sort of code. And ideally, that makes it actually better because it had more time for review. So that's kind of the idea there. And part of it is also that for us designers, it's almost like an impossible task to actually run the project locally and test something specific. So kind of getting away a little bit from the code for these design decisions is it really opens things up to a lot of people. There was something else you said about. Yeah, I don't know. There was some other point I want to respond to, but now my brain is not helping out.
Qt project,
Yeah.
the other repository.
Yeah. So here's we don't. I don't know how others do, but something that we did early on, we took a ton of screenshots here in this FigJam file, and we just took a lot of notes on them and kind of took an index of the different features, and we discussed how they can be mapped and just try to get a thorough understanding of everything that's there. And I've been referring to that a lot, others probably as well. But generally, we try not to replicate it. We try to see kind of, I think the essence of what's there is still kind of similar in terms of you have the tabs at the top and some of those pages. But I think otherwise we don't try to, we don't just try to redo it with different visuals.
Yeah, in the same vein, I tried out other wallets like Sparrow and Spectre, also taking screenshots, which reminds me I maybe I should add them here as well, but to just get a feel for how different wallets do things. So just kind of take it as a maybe a bit of an inspiration and see how things work, and then try, as Christoph said, try to find our own way.
Yeah.
Michael, if you have after the call, no rush to share the Figma file with the screenshots. I'd love to see the Sparrow one. That's
Sure, they are not in a Figma file yet. They're on my
Okay.
on my desktop
All good.
here.
All
Yeah,
good.
so I have to use this clean up desktop feature that Apple has. But I'll definitely put them on the Fig. I can put it even here in this FigJam file if you want.
Yeah, I
You're
wanted
welcome
to
do
do
somewhere else.
something. Sorry, do you hear me? Well,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
yeah. I just want to say that I wanted to do something similar to take screenshots of. Yeah, I don't know if all flows, but like at least the most important for us, for Sparrow. What was the other one you said?
Nunchuck?
Spectre.
Did you say Nunchuck?
Yeah, Nunchuck, not a Spectre. I don't know about Spectre, but Sparrow, Nunchuck, maybe Electrum, but Electrum is so similar that I don't know if it's worth it. And kind of have, the same flows from these all apps close, like next to each other, so it's easier to analyze. Maybe we can do it together in one file. I don't know, this file or a separate file.
Yeah,
That
I'd
would
love
be
to. I'd
useful.
love to map out the user flows over there. If you collect the screens, I can help with the flows, like seeing how they do the user flows. I'm very interested in, especially Sparrow and Electrum, and I'll tell you why later after I share the research. But yeah, let's kick on with the.
We already have the Electrum flows. They are in this old file in, I think it was Bosch's workspace page. No, genes. So I can just port them over.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's also the hack of watching BTC sessions videos. He basically has a video for every single wallet you can think of, going through it and nicely explaining everything. And he's usually very familiar with them, so he'll also consciously point out some of the strengths and weaknesses from his practical experience. So make it a, I don't know, what do you call it, binge session, and you can pick up a lot from those videos without having to manually dig through screenshots and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And he also he does close-ups or record screens, so you can even screenshot from YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's really good point.
Yeah, and some of the tricky stuff is always, like just clicking through the normal flow is easy, right? Just takes 2 minutes. But let's say you want to do a multi-sig send with 3 outputs and 5 inputs or something like that. Like, how do you get the wallet to be in that scenario so you can test certain features, right? That's very, very difficult to actually get to that point so you can experience that yourself. So BTC Sessions also does a pretty good job at manually going through some of those scenarios. It might take you a bunch of time to set up. Yep. Cool. Anything else on those topics?
Hi, Pablo. I'm Johnny. Thanks for joining. I'd just say from an engineering side, being familiar with the QT is super helpful. What we're trying to do is sort of limit the friction with migrating. So that's so finding integration points that make sense for a lot of this is really important. So we kind of look at it a little differently. Like, we're trying to make it as similar as possible on the the back end side. So that's something to take into consideration whenever we add or implement some of these features. But at the same time, we like to find places that don't make sense. And if the API can be improved in some way, that's something to think about as well. So just a couple of points from the other side.
Yeah, and from the design side things, we just have a few different requirements too. It should work on mobile and on desktop, which is a really big one, right? So it needs to be responsive and work for mouse, keyboard input as well as touch. Then we also want to be able to be forward-looking to support features like silent payments or assumeUTXO or hardware wallets, multi-sigs in the UI in a way that it doesn't feel just kind of like crammed in, right? And then we want to make sure that it's very easy to understand for newcomers and first users, but at the same time allow the more advanced or sophisticated or experienced users to dig in and do some more of the sophisticated, more complex activities as well. So yeah, a bunch of stuff to keep in mind. We'll get there maybe someday. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions on process or anything else? And I'm Christoph. Like I said, I've been working on this since the beginning, just trying to do a bunch of different design things and moderate project management and just support where I can. Yeah, G, did you also want to introduce yourself real quick? Maybe you don't have to. Cool. I'll take that as a no, maybe, or audio not working, but feel free to do so. Mic is off. Cool.
Uti is joined too. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, nice to be here. How is Michael? Okay, Christoph.
Okay, sounds good. So real quick, there's a milestone 1.4 kickoff, which I'll move up a little bit here in our doc. So just real quick on the design docs here on the right-hand side, we broke down. So we have the version 1 of the application done. That was just the onboarding at the node. Version 2 is on all the wallet additions, right? And we broke it down into 8 different milestones, which are visually illustrated here on this little map. And then we just try to work through them. Each milestone is a page that has decently designs in decent state. There's a lot to do, but we just kind of like to have a basic version of each thing and then just kind of go through over them again and again. Last week I kind of reviewed the status of everything, and the Crate wallet and the Send or Crate and Send, those are the things where I think we have the most work to do because of all the complexities with what's it called, with like multi-sig hardware wallet, signing, all of this type of stuff, coin control and all of that. So because Jakob, you asked about, like specifically like what should we do next? And Michael's also looking for something. So we could just say as a group that we're going to kick off 1.4 now, which would be wallet creation, which would probably be split up into kind of a, like we don't even have much here on this page, which would probably be 2 versions that we probably look for. One is our future ultra version that can do everything and anything, and the other one is maybe more of our proof of concept, or like what can we get done? What's the first stable version of this that we can put live somehow? Maybe just create single sig. That's it. Yeah.
I have a question here. So I was asking about this 1.4, looking for something after navigation, which we can later talk. And I see in Figma, in the up-to-date Figma file, there is a single sig wallet creation. And I just I haven't gone through it yet myself, but just wanted to ask, is it, in your opinion, like done, or it also needs a review? And like, is it from the like 2 years or 1 year ago, or is it done like in the last months and it
No,
feels
this needs a whole bunch of work. If you look some of the copy, it's just placeholder text, right? And I think it also, before design, I think it might also be a good time to do some spec outlining first. So list out all of the different features, maybe list out the different flows and steps involved. And there's a bunch of stuff where I just have no idea how it's going to be. Like, how specifically does it work to, like when you register a hardware wallet, right? During wallet creation or something, like what are the technical steps that happen and how can they be represented? Do we have load status? Can we detect what type of device it is? Do we want to have little icons for different hardware and add names and all of that? What do we need to show fingerprints? Like, there's just a lot of stuff to go through. I think the overall general flows, like basic pages, it's probably kind of close, but then there's a million details below that and all the things that can go wrong. And when things go wrong, how can we help people to do things right?
In terms of connecting devices, I think Sparrow is the best reference because the compatibility with Sparrow is, they support, I think, almost all devices, and it's pretty well done.
Yeah, and so that's like one of the questions there is if you use some of the other tools, like if you connect something to an Umbrel, then you have to pick your device, and there are like 15 different flows for every single thing, right? Do we also end up then with 300 screens in total to cover for every single device, or can we standardize somehow?
Yeah, it really depends, and also with Sparrow, depending on, one device can support multiple ways to connect it, right? It could be air gapped, or it can be connected via cable, which speeds up things. But people might not want to do it, so it's a lot of tricky stuff to go through. But I mean, yeah, and if it's air gapped, then you have to, on that hardware device, you have to follow a specific process based on the device type to export your XPub correctly. So it's there's a lot of detail to think about.
Yeah, so that might be there's probably a Google Doc somewhere with a bunch of specs and references and testing different things and watching BTC sessions videos and stuff to gather the to do the homework.
Yeah, I think some kind of workspace like that, or it could be a Miro board. Well, Miro is probably not so good for open source, but yeah, Google is probably a good one where you can have multimedia as well.
I don't dive into the design files that often. I'm more on the research side of things and more on the design docs. But in terms of the designs or any sort of even basic user flows for the node side of things, have we done anything on the node side of things yet? I don't know. Like I'm just asking if we've done anything on the node side yet.
Which aspect of the node? The setup of the node is kind of part of our onboarding, and other than that, you don't really have a lot of flows there. You just
Okay, so the node is pretty much just setting it up, and that's part of the onboarding process.
yeah, that's this sequence of screens.
Yeah, the bitcoin.conf file is.
Sorry, Jakob?
Go ahead. I just wanted to. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to wanted the link of this Figma file. I just wanted to see, take a look.
I will not send you the Figma file. I'll tell you the place where you can find it, and then you will know how to find it in the future.
Yeah, sure.
So you go to bitcoincore.app, which Josh has already shared, and then there is a link to the Figma file right there.
Okay.
Like bitcoincore.app, that is the central place that you should ideally find anything that you need.
Okay, thank you.
One thing that is also on the agenda is bitcoin.conf issue, and the issue is about just localizing the file in the app so the user can find it easily, because currently Core doesn't do it anymore, and in the user research it came out that basically all of the people who seriously use Bitcoin Core as a node, basically it's a must to configure that file, because a lot of stuff is just not shown, and Bitcoin Core doesn't allow to do it in the UI. And they all use this Jameson Knob configurator. And I was just wondering, I don't know, maybe not in the first version, but I think it's good. And I also wanted to ask if there are any constraints that will not allow us to basically create such configurator within the app in the future, because I got an impression in the research that there's a very big need for that, and right now someone outsources it right outside of the app, which I think could be just a configurator within the core.
Yeah, I have strong feelings on that one, which I already shared earlier. So, this seems like a total hack, right? This is. I told this Mo, I had a design research professor, and she coined this thing called say, do, make when you talk to your users. So say is you listen to what your users say. Do is you observe what they do, how they go about things, and make is when they create their own solutions for things that are not working out for them. And then this is one of those make things, right? Clearly what's given there is not working out for them. A lot of these people create something else, and that's like a big problem that we need to figure out. But the problem is not necessarily to do exactly what they're doing. They're just using oftentimes glue and tape and to just kind of make something work. we have to figure out, ideally we can figure out, well, what are they, what's their goal? What are they trying to do? Are they all trying to change the exact same setting? And if we add this one setting in there, then we don't need anything else? Are there, because that configurator has 1,000 settings in there and they're very poorly described, at least for me. Everything I see there, I have to first look it up somewhere else to figure out what it means. So I need like another tool, Google or the whole internet and Stack Overflow and whatnot to actually to use this stuff and then try it. And I actually did try to use it and it didn't really work out. I had to do all this trial and error. So I would start with the question around why, like what's missing? Like what features, what settings do people really want and need?
I'm on board with that. What Christoph said. We have access to this node runners this node community, Jakob, which you and I dove into. They're very passionate about running nodes. And through the research, it's also come up that one of the three biggest reasons people use Bitcoin Core, at least the current users, is to run a node. So that's telling me that we need to take care of these node runners, because when Bitcoin Core app will launch, they'll be like, okay, I'm going to run my node now using Bitcoin Core app. So as a starting point, maybe we could work from the problem space and ask them what problems they are facing using Bitcoin Core. And maybe we can come up with a questionnaire. They're a very accessible community. Maybe we can come up with a questionnaire. We don't have to interview them, and we can get them to answer. Like, I'm sure they'll tell us what's not working for them. They'll be very happy to tell us. And from the problem space, we can move into the solution space and see if the current user flow it sounds as if there's no user flow for the node running. It's just an application setup, and then it's more with the config settings. Maybe we can see if that's enough for these node runner guys in terms of what they want to do with core.
I mean, yeah, exactly. A simple thing would be you get 20 people to send you their configured bitcoin.conf file and then just see what they actually did.
Oh.
And then you can kind of calculate like, 10 people have this setting, 5 people have this setting. And then then you figure out, well, why did they all of this? And well, they run it on a really low end device. They need this, right? And then maybe the app can automatically detect if it's low on, if the device has few resources and adjust automatically or so.
Would users be okay with sending us that config file? Are they not like, I don't know anything about the config file, but
there might be a password in there that they may want to remove first, maybe something else, I'm not quite sure. Okay. But they could just replace that with stars or something.
I love this, your ideas, and I definitely didn't mean to like just copy JSON configurator and put it in, use our UI to just move it into the app. I think this is a great area because I think we identified really strong needs there, which has the supplementary solution by JSON Lab, as you said. And you're complaining that JSON Lab descriptions are not that bad, but there's zero descriptions in the bitcoin.conf file, or there's no docs. So actually the people in the research, they were saying this file is great because it has descriptions. I mean, this configurator is great because it has any descriptions, right? But I think this is a great area to just, as a more narrow research, just to find out how to improve that configuration. So to find out what is really need to be configured and like a must-have, and then how we can fit that in the.
I think it's good also to be clear about the two types of users likely involved, because a lot of the people using the configurator are using it from the perspective of running a node as sort of like a server admin. So their perspective on how to interface with these things is very different. So, but of course, bridging that gap, like figuring out what options they do use is really important. So
it's very important because those
there is such a huge gap between using the UI and what the admins are doing themselves.
I think we can, we've wrapped up the first bit of research, and now it's clear that there's a gap in what information is available, and there's a gap in the node information. we need to do more research on the node side of things. But we'll do that. We'll do that as well. I think Jakob and I can, and anyone else who'd like to join, we can pick up something and access these node runners, getting to their problem space.
Yeah, the low end versus high end is probably like a good way to think about it, because I've certainly done things to my conf that are specific to like running it on a Raspberry Pi, for instance. Yeah.
Can I? Is it like it? Can this file, or is it configured at the beginning, or like before running a node, or is it user can change it anytime, and it has how's the dynamic there?
It loads at startup, so you set it and then rerun your node. So that's a constraint with that. A lot of them are constrained that they require the node to restart. So,
but you can always change settings, right? It's not like you have to, I don't know, resync the blockchain again. Or...
there are a couple, especially related around pruning of blocks.
Okay.
And if you change the network.
Yeah. Main network, test net, or whatever.
Hey guys, Yashraj here. I'm very happy that this topic has come up again. I think I kind of agree with what everyone said. And I think I've shared my thoughts earlier too, but I guess my two cents, if I had to quickly do it, was uh, there are dozens and dozens of configurations that you can do in the Bitcoin Core app, and this conf file is a way to do it. I think that there are maybe like a like a dozen or so of these configurations that are pretty widely that frequently used. Things like the transaction index size and the mempool size and things like that. And so it might not be a bad idea to like at least surface those and maybe include them in the settings page somewhere. And so that might be one way. So I think I agree with what Christoph said. Like we don't just want to like duplicate this so-called hack, right? And I think Christoph, my perspective on that is that I agree. I feel like providing the access to the config file is like step one. It could be one, and then two could be like doing the research and surfacing the top used configs. That could be step two, and then we could like step three could be like including them just like as settings themselves in the application. And like so we could do this evolution of a thing where we just like acknowledge that there are these so many configurations and settings that can be used, and these are pretty useful and pretty widely used actually by people who like to run a node, like like that kind of a use case. People who want to run a node want to usually do it for some reason. So I feel like it could be useful for that.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we will continue that one, and a little bit of research sounds like is a good starting point there.
Yeah, the node side needs research. If you guys are ready, I'm ready to share. I'm sort of my personal deadline to wrap up the research that we've done on core is the end of this week. I'm now halfway through the current user sort of research which we've done. I'm happy to share it. It'll take just a few minutes. But yeah, this is going to live to be discussed where it's going to live. But basically, just put it together. I put it together from the space of thinking that someone doesn't know anything about Bitcoin Core, and they're reading this because they're just they're just passionate about core. So the problem space was we had no information about our current users. That was basically the problem that we were facing when we were building. We were trying to understand who the people are who are using Bitcoin Core and understand what jobs these people would like Bitcoin Core to do. The process we planned, we created an interview script, we connected with people. Jakub, who's here on the call, was also very helpful. We interviewed people at a conference, and then we evaluated the conversations. What actually came up of speaking to the people is that the people who are currently using Core, these are people who have been 10 years or longer in the Bitcoin space. So the current users have been in the space for a very long time. And then the people who are using it for a less longer period of time have been in for 8 years or less. So that's the current user base is a very experienced Bitcoiner. At least that is what the people who we spoke to, this is what came out of it. And this is something that's very relevant, which we just spoke about. What were the most popular wallets? Sparrow is number one on everyone's list, which is why I'm very keen on investigating the Sparrow user flows. Everyone's very keen on Sparrow, and Electrum came up as second. So these are the top two, but Sparrow is the king in terms of popular wallets that are being used. And there's a reason why, and I'm really curious why that is. So yeah, and the other ones, they have a much smaller share of the pie in terms of these current Bitcoin Core users. Insights, we're looking at a very experienced person. The shortest time was 4 years, which is still not a short time really. And the longest time that they're in the space is 10 years. Sparrow is the most. So here we go. What pushed them to start using the wallet? This one was really interesting. People were just genuinely curious. They were curious, and that's why they started using Core. So out of curiosity, they used Core, which we could use to drive more users when V1 of the wallet is launched. The second reason is the node runners, which is why I'm very interested in taking care of the needs of the node runners. And the third reason was the self-custody. And then there's some very small reasons over here. The developer testing, we don't forget about you. You guys are also very important with current use cases. So the pushes, curiosity, node running, and self-custody. And I just explained a little bit about the pushes over here. And this is pretty much where I am. There's still more to come. But yeah, it's quite some food for thought in terms of, what are the use cases right now for the current users? These are very experienced people. They know what they're doing. And so yeah, that's pretty much it from what I can share from the research side of things. Yeah.
Awesome. And you interviewed people at a Bitcoin conference. So that
Exactly.
definitely explains it's representative of that people who go there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we did about 20 interviews in total. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was between 18 and 22. The interviews were done between Jakub, who's on this call, myself, as well as a third person who's not on this call. Jakub and I interviewed at the conference, and the other guy interviewed totally remote. So this was a small group that were not actually at the conference. They ended up.
I also did some remote. So just I think it's 50-50 probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Hey Mo, I just want to say the document looks awesome.
Thank
I
you.
like the typography and everything. Yeah, it looks great. It looks really good. Um, I think just like a quick thing, I think Christoph and you mentioned this is like a bit of a selection bias thing where the people that we interviewed were at the Bitcoin conference, right? And these people are very opinionated and they are very passionate and they use the application for a very real world thing, right? Self custody, all of that. So I love those kind of users. Also, like to quickly add in and say this class of user will have very strong opinions about the bitcoin.conf file as well, and they will have to see something like this being implemented at the UI level probably.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Yeah, so Sparrow's a very good one. The research is pointing to looking at what Sparrow's doing. Sparrow is very popular.
Yeah, awesome work. Yeah, it'd be cool to this year get a few more different research. Maybe people, like, if anyone can go to a local meetup, ask some people, just take advantage of when you're around Bitcoiners and ask them about these things, and we can gather all that. That'd be really helpful. And then it's all going to end up in the design docs very soon too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Research page coming up.
The research page is coming up. I'm gonna lean on you for some help because I what do you call it? I cloned the repository. I made my own branch, but obviously I've done something wrong because I'm not seeing those design docs open up in my code editor. So I'll lean into you for some help there. Yeah.
What's up, right? Yes, Rash?
Yeah, that was a mistake. I didn't mean to do it. Sorry, guys.
Okay. We have about 15 minutes left. Let's real quick with the milestone 1.4 kickoff. Should we just start a Google Doc and kind of gather and open editing and start gathering intel? So we can kind of zoom in on what this all involves and get on the same page on that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good start.
Okay.
And the Sparrow and other wallet screenshots, do we add to this Qt FigJam file or a separate file, you think?
Whatever you prefer.
It feels like it's more like like the Sparrow is research almost. I feel like it's like interface research, but you can add it wherever you want. And then, yeah.
Okay, so web prototype. So last week I proposed a web prototype and I started working on it, and I'll just show that off real quick. And that also ties in. So there's the link. And I don't know if you can see that in my background. The way it's structured is on the left, you have a series of pages that match some of our designs. And you can click through them. There's also a mobile mode, so you can just kind of click through the experience there, and try things out. So it's kind of a very basic JavaScript-based mock-up version of our designs to quickly iterate and test stuff. And some of it is interactive, some of it isn't. Another thing here is there's dark mode. You can switch and look at that. Then some screens on the left, like if you're here in this cover one, there are different states, like basically variations of the same screen. And then I also, I took the assumeUTXO and I put that in, I added some of the mock-ups in here as well. Like, for example, and this is really the main benefit of having a web-based prototype without any application logic underneath, right? We can quickly mock up something, we can pull it up on your phone, you can click around and react to it. So here, in this example here, this is based on G and Yashar's work. Here, this would be a page where you can upload your own UTXO snapshot. You choose your file, and then it starts loading it. No idea how big that would be. It's just kind of a fake loader. And once it's done, it will tell you snapshot loaded. This is what it's going to do. Yeah, and that would be accessible from initial download here in the onboarding. This is where you'd also find that probably. So yeah, that's that. It's like ideally, it will help us quickly test and iterate stuff.
Christoph,
Where
this
is this
is
located?
phenomenal. This is absolutely amazing. I have it open on my phone. I quickly sent myself the link, and you can actually interact with it on the phone as well. I have an Android. I don't know if it's with other phones, but this is great. this is absolutely amazing. Also, that it opens up on the phone screen. It's automatically resizing as well, it seems. So
Yep.
perfect. Amazing.
Yeah, I shared the link in the chat here, and from that landing screen, there's also a link to the code. It's just a local web JavaScript thing. But yeah, so ideally we can have static prototypes in Figma, which are good for certain things. Then we can have very tactile, interactive prototypes that we can quickly iterate with here. And then maybe it also helps, for us to keep design and code and everything in order. Like for example, here in the activity screen, it's very easy just to have two states, one of them to see what it looks like when it's filled and one of them when it's empty. Like this is just placeholder stuff. Or if there's a pending transaction or so, it just makes it easy to get a more realistic feel for this stuff.
Super nice, Christoph. Thanks.
Incredible.
Awesome.
So good.
This is awesome, Christoph. But I think G has his hand up.
Mhm.
You wanted
Yeah,
to say
that
something?
looks. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yep.
took a second to get the. Hi guys, I go by G on for Bitcoin. Quick. First of all, that looks amazing, Christoph. You answered my question already about how to kind of message to the user how to load the UTXO. Because right now it's actually the app freezes, but in the background it's loading just briefly and then it resumes. So I think your solution there is pretty elegant. Yeah, and then so so now I think like trying to bridge between design and code. So when designs, do you guys want to lock the design first, or you also like to prototype and kind of like go back and forth a little bit in terms of process?
So right now we're in a situation where design is very far ahead of the code. We've designed tons of different screens for wallet features and all of this stuff. And that is a really good thing, right? It allows us to think ahead and feel out what this is like. We can make this web prototype of things that will be built in half a year, and we can already have a pretty realistic idea of what the experience will be like. So that's a good thing. Practically speaking, there's always some changes are always needed when you actually get down to implementing stuff, just from experience. There will be something about the tech, something that wasn't like, also when you're designing, as designer, we don't always understand all the technical things, and those will come up when the development is actually practically being considered, or you implement it and you realize like it's not quite right. There's something missing there. Ideally, we can plan really well ahead, but due to the nature of everyone works really independently and all of this stuff, and that you can never plan perfectly, there will probably be some back and forth with code and design, and then you'll suggest something, it'll be a better solution, then we'll update the designs and we'll go back and forth a few times. So I think it's a good thing when we plan ahead. Then when development starts, it's kind of good to sync. Like, I'm planning to develop. Do I understand correctly that this is this and this? You just kind of talk through it before doing it, so you don't waste any time. And then while you develop, you just kind of check in. I'd like to say that at that point, design is kind of in a support role, where the developer really is the main person driving, and the designer is just kind of there to answer questions and maybe make changes if something comes up. That's generally how I see it. Right? Everyone's has the. I think in this project, everyone works very, very independently. So yeah, I don't want to force any strict process on anyone here. That's just my ideal. So, and in this Figma file that I just shared, I took the screenshots from the PR here at the top. G from you, Rashia, Yashraj, the ones that you provided. And then I also did a very simple one where I just tried to strip down anything that's not absolutely necessary. strip away. Yeah. Anyway, how does that sound in terms of a design process?
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. Yeah, I just needed confirmation. That sounds awesome. And then on the developer side, so right now I do a lot of kit batching, like trying to just reuse the code that we have already within the QML to kind of like solve things. But and I've used interfaces. So when do we kind of like create new code, and is that a priority, or do we prefer to just use what's there, like for Johnny or Pablo?
I mean, I guess it comes down to the problem you're trying to solve. Yeah.
So for example, with that loading screen of the snapshot loading, so right now there's no that awesome Christoph animation that he made. I don't think that exists yet, or perhaps it does somewhere.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So for that is that something that we try to reuse things, or is this something that we actually try to just build from scratch?
Well, yeah, we would want to build it. You know, I think you just need to be sure that that's what we want to go with, and then we can, yeah, absolutely build it. Yeah, I mean, you know, most of the screens didn't exist until we built them. So whenever there's a new component, yeah, absolutely, just we'll implement it.
Yeah, I would also say that in Figma we try to be very conscientious with components. So there's a design system page here where all the components are defined. And we try not to just have like willy-nilly on every screen, just like, you know, just randomly go about things, but really have a very useful and flexible set of essential components that are then really used in a lot of different places.
Yeah, and that's my hesitation, I guess, is just to be sure that the choices there are will fit into this.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and feel free to push on all of these things. Like this project is still fairly new, I would say.
Yeah, that's what I like. I like the stage that it's at. It's very exciting, and I like this team. It's very small. We can communicate directly, which is very different, I think, from Bitcoin Core main, which is like tons of different people. And but yeah, so this is great. Glad to be part of it.
Yeah, and I hope we can take advantage of that fact for, you know, until it gets too big, probably next year.
Can I quickly propose the mobile navigation?
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
It will take 3 minutes. Okay, so we ended up lately on like this 4 kind of I don't know, four layouts, and they differ in 2 things. So the bottom bar, we either include settings there as one of the main actions, or on the right side you can see it's in the top, and then the top just differs in how we show the wallet selector. And I just thought about which one is the best, which combination is the best, and I think this one with with settings button on the top and wallet selector like this is the best, and at least that's my assumptions, for 2 reasons. It's the closest one to the desktop component, so basically this top component is exactly the same as the desktop one, except it has different paddings, and just the tabs which are on the desktop layout inside just go down below. And that's also the reason why I left the settings on the top, so it feels more consistent, I think. And the only this is my assumption, but this is maybe a wrong assumption, that mobile users will know, like, there's not that big need of having settings, accessible in the main navigation, because, and that's my assumption, that mobile users and even node runners will probably not try to, play around it that often, but that may be a wrong assumption. But yeah, that's just, I think we just need to pick something now, and this is what I picked. And then there's the question, another, how the wallet selector could look like. It can be exactly the same for desktop, or maybe we can make it wider for easier selection. And that's kind of separate issue. Any thoughts?
I would be conscious of how much room you have for touch. It's quite constrained there, so it could be difficult for a user to hit some of these points.
You mean this one? This one?
That one, as well as the drop down. Yeah, that'd be something to
no, drop down is it's good enough. It's 60 pixels. It's good. This one might get a bit wider. I agree.
Okay.
So maybe it'd be better if we, like, make it a bit wider. Yeah, but besides that, I don't think the sizing is a problem.
Yeah, I think conceptually this makes sense to me. And maybe instead of a drop down, the UI element could also look like a full width drawer if you have multiple wallets.
Yeah, I thought about it. Yeah, but I just saw we don't use it anywhere for now. So I'm wondering, you mean from the bottom, right, or from the left side?
Or you could even slide it on from the top. But what came to mind is if you don't have a wallet in there, then we probably default to the block clock, right? And you can just switch to the settings, and we wouldn't have a need for the bottom navigation bar in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Yeah.
But that's something
No.
Yeah.
No, but
other than that,
the question is,
I like to put the settings, a bit out of the way.
The question is, if without the wallet, if we put it here, it would be a bit strange, I think.
We're on the hour now. How about we just set up another call this week and we just kind of gather all our different designs and just kind of work through it.
Cool.
Because you're starting to do mock-up things here. It's a really good discussion, but I feel like it needs its time.
Yeah.
We've been pushing it forward. So how about, is that okay? Or we can just stay on here afterwards.
I have to jump, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's another subtopic here, Jakob, also whether we have static box at the top in all screens or whether it's just on the activity screen. These things. But okay, how about should we do it tomorrow then? Does it work?
Yeah, I'm good tomorrow.
Okay, let's sync on Discord then and figure out a time.
All right.
Cool. And this is something we could also mock up in the web prototype, and just with through 2 variations, and then just kind of click through and see what happens. Cool. Anything else while we're here? Anything brief? Anything you want to do this week? Relying on anything else? Cool. Then let's wrap it up. I'm gonna stop the recording here. Thanks for anyone who's watching this afterwards.